Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People story. I never imagined I'd end up in court defending my rights to my own house. But that's exactly what happened after the neighbor from hell, who I'll call Karen, moved in next door about a year ago. From day one, Karen was a nightmare. She complained about every little thing. My wind chimes were too noisy, my garden gnomes too ugly. According to her, my mailbox was on her property and my car parked too close to her driveway. No matter how nicely I tried to address her concerns, she always flew off the handle. One day she came pounding on my door, claiming my beloved oak tree was damaging her roof. She demanded I cut it down immediately. I politely refused, since the tree was clearly on my property. Well, Karen didn't take no for an answer. She flew into a rage and declared she would see me in court. I have to admit, her threats didn't faze me one bit. A few weeks later, an official notice arrived informing me that I was being sued by Karen for encroaching on her land. I laughed out loud reading her ludicrous claims. This woman had lost her marbles if she thought she could take my family home from me. On the day of court, I walked in fully prepared with property maps and the original deed. Karen strode in dressed to the nines with an arrogant smile, as if she had already won. As she took the stand, spewing utter nonsense to the judge, it took every ounce of restraint not to march up there and smack that smug look off her face. Your Honor, this delusional woman has been harassing me since the day she moved in. Now she has the audacity to take me to court, claiming my family home for over 20 years somehow belongs to her. I presented the judge with documentation proving ownership beyond a doubt. Karen's smile faded as the judge reviewed the evidence, shaking his head in disbelief. Ma'am, these documents clearly prove the plaintiff holds ownership of the disputed land. Your claims seem not only false but also frivolous and a waste of this court's time. I'm dismissing this case and awarding damages to the defendant. Karen turned red as a beet, screaming about how unfair this was. As the bailiff dragged her from the courtroom, she shouted threats that this wasn't over. I thanked the judge and walked out with my head held high. For a few weeks, Karen kept her distance, probably scheming her next move. I made sure to document every crazy thing she did in case it escalated. Sure enough, I came home one day to find police cars and a moving truck outside. Karen stood there, arms crossed, directing movers to take my possessions from my house. I rushed over, demanding to know what was happening. Ma'am, this woman has a court order granting her ownership of this home, the officer said. I looked at the document and couldn't believe my eyes. This bogus order was signed by a Judge Peterson, the same judge who had dismissed Karen's case against me. This is fraudulent, I yelled. I was just in court with Judge Carlson, not Peterson. This crook is trying to steal my house. The officer could tell Karen was up to no good. While he detained her, I began calling the courthouse and police station to sort out this mess. It turned out Karen had manipulated the system by faking Judge's documents. By the time Karen's moving trucks arrived, the police had already cleared them out. She was in handcuffs screaming that I was the criminal. I decided enough was enough and pressed charges for Karen's harassment, slander, and forgery. In court, Karen tried to play the victim, saying I was out to get her. Your Honor, this is now the second time this deranged individual has dragged me into court over my property that she is trying to steal. The prosecutor presented the evidence of Karen's forged documents and testimony from neighbors about her erratic behavior. Karen's lawyer tried to make excuses, but the judge wasn't having it. Ma'am, you deliberately falsified legal documents to unlawfully seize someone's home. Then you wasted this court's resources lying about being the victim. Your behavior is contemptible, and I'm sentencing you to the maximum for your crimes. Karen wailed as she was dragged away to jail. Justice was sweet after months of harassment. I later sued in civil court as well, winning damages that allowed me to install a tall, soundproof fence around my property. These days, things are finally peaceful again without Karen lurking around. I still keep those property documents handy, though, locked safely in my desk drawer. Something tells me if Karen ever gets out of jail, she'll be back on my doorstep claiming that fence is on her land. The next one is a pro-revenge story. My first job out of college was for a local TV station. The owner was, and still is, the worst human being I've ever met. This guy has money, but he will cheat and lie, anything to get out of paying his bills. When I started working there, the owner had just signed a contract with DirecTV. to become part of their broadcast package. Since they were at the time purely a local TV station, this meant that we had about 2 months to upgrade our system so that we could start broadcasting to DirecTV customers in the entire Bay Area. Every day that we failed to do this past the deadline meant that the owner would suffer a penalty, per the contract. Not knowing about how any of this works, the owner hired a friend of mine to come in as a freelance consultant. My friend told him that for about $15,000 he could get a system that would automate the entire process, which of course this guy didn't want to pay for. He tasked my friend with finding a cheaper way, around half, and paying for all the hardware up front, and getting reimbursed later. Knowing what a piece of crap this guy is, I warned my friend not to front the money because he wouldn't get paid back. The guy just smiled and said, "Watch me." So he made it work. We went live on schedule, and the owner was happy. Then my friend went in and presented the guy with the bill. Immediately, the usual excuses started. "Oh, I'm a little short this month. Can I pay you later?" Etc. Etc. Then my friend pulled out the trump card. Not only did my friend threaten to take all the equipment back and take the station off the air, he revealed that in order to get the uplink working for cheap, someone had to come in every day and code the broadcast manually. It's not a terribly complicated procedure, takes less than 5 mins, but of course no one else at the station knows how to do it but him, so either the owner can pay him what he's owed, plus a $2,000 month consulting fee, or the station goes dark, and he starts paying the penalty to DirecTV. The ducker paid fast. So instead of $15,000, he ended up shelling out more than double that amount as my friend lapped up his $2,000 month fee for close to a year before he felt bad and finally taught someone there how to do it. Moral of the story: only thinking about short-term gain will always cost you more in the long run. The next one is a petty revenge story. This is a few years old now, and the place I used to work has now closed. Good riddance to bad rubbish, you PTSD dealing place. So I feel comfortable enough sharing it. I used to work at a place where teenagers lived full-time when they had behavior difficulties, usually involving drug use, alcohol abuse, and/or truancy. They lived there full-time, and the program was staffed 24/7. They required supervision at all times except in the bathroom, and at night, supervision was reduced to 15-minute checks all night long. I worked the third shift at this job, and I worked there for, at the time of this incident, 5 years, almost 5.5. I did not love my management, but I did love my kids. And for the entire 5.5 years I worked there during the Christmas holidays, the third shift staff would do the 7 nights of Christmas, wherein we'd put little presents outside their doors in the week leading up to Christmas. They were pretty generic things like body wash, lotion, soft fuzzy blankets, etc., but it made them feel a little better about being stuck in an institution during the holidays. This place also had, this is hard to explain in text, but they had statuses that they could be placed on. For ease of understanding, I'll call them bad, good, and perfect. If someone was on the perfect status, they had a later bedtime, etc. Certain unwanted behaviors could knock them from a perfect status to a good one, or a good one to a bad one. This place insisted up, down, and sideways that the bad status was not a punishment, that the kids' behaviors had earned the bad status, and as soon as they showed remorse and that they'd learned from their mistake, they could earn back the good status. This is important. Well, during the year 2018, we got a new manager, we'll call them Sammy. A few days before the Christmas holiday, Sammy calls me up when I get to work and says, "Kids who earned bad status don't get their 7 days of Christmas presents until they earn off bad." And I disagreed with that super hard. She insisted it was because we were rewarding bad behavior. I insisted that the bad status wasn't a punishment, and that withholding presents was a punishment. So, which is it, Sammy, She got short with me and ended up hanging up on me. So I wrote out my end-of-night logs by throwing her under the bus and stated openly in government legal emails that Miss Sammy last name had stated that the ladies who had earned bad status were not allowed to get the 7 days of Christmas presents that their peers were getting, and as this was a punishment, we needed to change the legislation on our rule set. Since bad status says on its paperwork that it is not a punishment but a consequence earned by behaviors, we should be changing it to say that these behaviors are bad and they earned a punishment status. I received several emails in quick succession that stated to give the presents, and then I got written up. I gave the kids the presents anyway, before the email, because forget that. Also, forget you, Sammy. You know who you are. The next one is a malicious compliance story. The school I went had a student's code, which was the rules the students should follow and the consequences for failing to do so, basically in law book. So here in the Brazil, it's not usual for you to have the educational parts of school life separated, like one place for high school, another for kindergarten, and so on. Usually there's just one place that has it all. The school that I went had a nasty high school coordinator. She overlooked all the teachers that dealt with the high school students, and she usually used the code for her advantage. I was about 15 years old at the time and got so mad about it that I looked for my mom's copy of the code. All parents received one at enrollment, found it and read it all. Every rule and penalty, asked my mom for it and she gave it to me. From that day it never left my bag. So through the span of a year, a lot of classmates got late to school, more than 15 minutes. And the penalty for that was that if you got late to class 3 times, you would receive a written warning. 3 of those got you suspended from class for a day, and 3 suspensions got you kicked from school. Because of that, at the first day of classes next year, the high school coordinator went around all the classrooms to announce that every time someone arrived late, they would receive a warning. So if you got there late 9 times, you were kicked out. I didn't say anything at that moment, but after some months I got late to class for the 3rd time. They took me to her office, and she told me that I wouldn't be attending class that day since it was my 3rd time late. I was being suspended for the day. Enter malicious compliance. I open my bag, pull out my copy of the code, and tell her that I wasn't suspended because that's not what's written in the code. And when I was enrolled at the school, my parents agreed to the code's rules, not hers. She got really mad, said my copy was outdated and that she was going to check hers. I just waited, and not long after the found her copy brought it over, read it silently, and her anger melted away. She became a puppy and old to go to class. Some hours after, she went around all the classrooms to announce that her changes to the rules were no longer in effect, and that everyone that had their suspensions revoked. The next one is an entitled People Story. 4 days ago, I created my account and contemplated asking if I was being an AH for something. My half-sister, HS, called me, crying, and said that our mother had kicked her out and she really needed her sister. I hung up the first time, and when she kept calling and texting, I told her we're not actually sisters and I wasn't driving 6 hours to pick her up nor letting her stay with me. I've been getting nonstop texts and calls from my maternal family since then. My maternal grandmother, the only person I stayed in any contact with, pretty much begged me to be a good sister and let HS stay with me. She gave HS my number, etc. I've blocked my grandmother and everyone's saying that I should be understanding because we've both been abandoned by our mother. It isn't the same, I told my grandmother this, but no one seems willing to acknowledge that. For context, HS and I are exactly 9 months apart in age. She's the product of an affair, and my dad stayed with my biological mother, BM, until I was 5, and she told him she kept bringing a man around when he wasn't home. Her affair partner, AP, and HS's biological dad. Dad divorced BM and gave her the house in exchange for removing his name from HS's birth certificate. BM lost custody of me when I was 8 after abandoning me because AP didn't want to bring a child that wasn't his to family gatherings. Dad tried to keep it civil so I could have a relationship with HS, but she was a mini AP and never viewed me as a sister. I didn't like being around her, so my dad never forced me to. BM, AP, and HS moved not long after this. BM had been in childcare and lost her job because no one wants to hire you to watch their kids when you abandon yours in the middle of the night. I haven't seen HS in 17 years. I didn't know what she looked like until I came home today. She was sitting on my porch with a suitcase, and a car, I think my grandmother's, pulled off as soon as I parked. I didn't get out of the car. I was too angry to even move, and I'm still angry right now. She kept saying she needs me and started crying, telling me that our mom was awful, her dad cut contact, and BM's new partner doesn't want her in his house. I live next door to my dad, so when HS started knocking on my car window after I just stared at her, I called him and told him what was going on and asked what I should do. Dad told me to stay in my car and call the cops, say I had a trespasser, which I did. I didn't get out until the cops came, and when they did, HS told them I agreed to let her stay. And now I'm leaving her homeless. I just showed them the texts, specifically the only texts I gave in response to everyone demanding I let her stay. No to you have the space. No to she's your sister. No to can she please stay with you. Nothing but refusals before I blocked people. When HS kept saying we're sisters, I told the cops I haven't seen this woman in 17 years. I don't know her. I didn't even know what she looked like. We're not family beyond sharing an egg donor. I went as far as unblocking my grandmother and calling her. I didn't even get to speak. She yelled, "Look, OP, I love you, but you need to get over this. She's family, and she needs you. And I've told your father you'd go to hell if he raised you to be so damn selfish. And you definitely will, because she's going through the same thing you went through." She hung up right after, and I told the cops they can book HS or drop her at a shelter. I don't care. I just want her off my property. They took her, and now I'm sitting here on my dad's couch wondering what the hell just happened. He doesn't want me staying alone right now in case they show back up. I'm so pissed right now, I don't get it. 17 damn years of no contact? I only speak to my grandmother on holidays. I don't know most of the aunts and uncles and cousins that blew up my phone, but because BM pushed me out, I have to do what they tell me to. I'm 25 years old. I've only had my dad and my paternal family for years. BM and her family haven't done crap for me. None of them even know when my damn birthday is because even my grandmother texts me on the wrong day, not even a phone call. If HS needs help so badly, one of you should help her. I don't know her. I don't know any of you either. I'm not letting an entire stranger into my house. And 6 hours is too far to visit when I had surgery, but not too far to try and force me to do something. The next one is an entitled parent story. Disclaimer. This happened outside of the US in a place where military discounts aren't a thing. I work in retail. This story has built up over a few months and I think now it's finally over. I had 3 encounters with this entitled dad and I hope there isn't a fourth. Encounter 1, entitled dad emails entitled dad, "Hi, I was in your store about a year ago. The guy told me that because I'm in the military, I get a 20% discount, so I'd like that as a code to buy stuff online." Me. "Hi, sorry, but I think you're mistaken. We don't offer a military discount. Perhaps you're thinking of another store." Entitled dad. "No, it was your store. The guy told me so. Are you not going to honor your promise?" Me. "I'm not sure there was a guy or a promise. No one here recalls this happening, so there's nothing to honor. We don't offer military discounts, let alone 20% discounts. I'm sorry, but I think you've confused us for someone else." He never replied. I didn't think I'd see his name again until... Encounter 2. Entitled dad makes a purchase. I didn't recognize the name at first, but something on the purchase order triggered my memory. Like most online stores, at the checkout, we have an option to include shipping instructions like, "Leave behind gate." It's very clear that the instructions are for postage, but people still write instructions to us in there. As I was processing new back orders, I saw a box of shipping instructions with a lot of text. I read it and I couldn't believe it. It said, "Please refund 20% of my order. I made this purchase before I got my military discount code." Wow, I thought. This can't be the same guy. He knows he wouldn't get a discount code, but it was. I searched the email on the order in our email inbox, and yeah, same guy. I didn't say anything, I just rolled my eyes at the thought of someone being so entitled and approved the back order. Encounter 3. Entitled dad demands free postage. About a month later, entitled dad appears in the emails again. Entitled dad, "Hi, just wondering why you haven't sent my order yet." Me, "Hi, your back order hasn't been sent yet because the back ordered item hasn't arrived." Entitled dad, "Yeah, but there's some in-stock items you can send." Me, "If you'd like me to split the order, that's fine, but it would come with an additional shipping charge." Entitled dad, "What? That's so odd. Why don't you just send it?" Me, "Because splitting it means 2 separate parcels, which doubles the shipping cost." Entitled dad, "What? That's so odd. I already paid for shipping." Me, "Yes, but as I said, splitting the order doubles the parcels, which doubles the shipping cost. If you want us to send it as 2 orders, you'll have to cover the additional shipping costs." Entitled dad, "You need to escalate this to your superior. This is absolutely ridiculous. Not only have you not honored your promise for a 20% military discount, you're making me pay for extra shipping. Some of these items are for my kid's birthday next week, and you're holding my order hostage. I expect your superior to resolve this. If my kid doesn't get his presents, his ruined birthday is on you." Oh boy, the things I wish I could say. I think the thing I wanted to say most was, your kid isn't worth a few extra dollars in shipping? Among other things I'd like to say are, duck you. I already told you you're not getting a discount. How dare you think you're entitled to such a discount just for being in the military? And you understand how shipping things works, right? Doubling the parcels doubles the costs. You knew you'd have to wait for the item, and I'm not giving you free shipping just because you think it's odd that we aren't. But we can't say that when we're in customer service, can we? Luckily for me, though, the buck stops with me. He wanted me to escalate it to my superior, but I'm the superior these things get escalated to, and I have full authority to handle them without approval. I was stuck, though. I didn't want to roll over and give him free shipping, because that would just teach him that being entitled works in getting him what he wants. I didn't want to encourage the behavior. However, even though I had the authority to do what I wanted, I still had to act in the interest of the company, and I knew that doubling down on my refusal could lead to bad reviews. But then I had an idea that gave me the satisfaction of not submitting to his entitlement, but also giving him what he wanted. I canceled and refunded the back-ordered item and released the rest for shipment. The back-ordered item was potentially discontinued by the manufacturer anyway, as it wasn't on the last 3 shipments, so in my view, I just cut out another month of waiting. I told him that's what I did, and his response was a defeated, "Okay." That was all. I like to think that he knew he couldn't fight that. He was looking for a win, but he didn't get one. He was hoping to get free shipping in lieu of a discount, but he didn't get either. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.